of course, I think we all want artists to get paid more via streaming. But what streaming has done has given artists that have figured it out and have some traction the closest thing to a paycheck, a consistent paycheck that they've ever seen.
What's going down? Appreciate you tuning back in with the MEC podcast. Everybody's back. It's a new year. It's 2025. So we're going to try to start the new year off on a more positive note with this particular episode. But before we start the new year off on a positive note yourself and get all that music that's sitting on your hard drive, all those beats that are sitting on your hard drive, get them out. Go to tolost.com, sign up, use the code MEC, and you will get 3 free months of unlimited premium music distribution. So you can get a lot of your music up on all the platforms in 3 months. So that's basically the whole first quarter of the new year. It's a lot of music. Schedule it out. Get it up there. Again, it's not doing any good sitting on your hard drive. People can't listen to it. You can't monetize it. You don't get any data. You won't see who is listening, where they're listening from, what they're listening to from you, what they enjoy. So do that. tolost.com, code is MEC. And we're back. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. I'm excited about this year. How you guys feeling? No,
I think it's
nothing. You're like, whatever.
No, it's going to be a good New Year. It's just, it's a delineation that I think is more psychological than anything. But it's a good time to reflect. And I've been doing that. We're recording this on day 2. So I've only had about 24 hours to do that. And so far, so good.
I mean, it might be psychological, maybe for the individual, but like a lot of things reset in the world, obviously, when the calendars turn over, right? Like budgets reset. Like, so it's not, you can say that, oh, I just go through the same motions every year, but there are a lot of things that reset around us that we kind of conform to, whether you're at the job or whether it's people you work with. Like, so, like for us, for example, on the big job side, like we're going into this year and we're kind of mapping out the calendar so that we get more content done. So we're going right into shooting next week. Last year we only got 1 web series out. It was successful. It was super successful, but we only got 1 out. This year we're planning to get 4 web series out, plus start a reality boxing show. We got a lot of shit going on the big jaw side. And then on the Tula side, hopefully we close this raise and have a lot more money in the bank account to have a bigger budget to do more things on the marketing side. So, for me, that's how it looks. I'm excited about the year. Hopefully a lot more things happen this year than happened last year. Was a decent year too, but I feel like it was a setup year for 2025. So, we'll get to it. We just got our channel monetized. So MEC, the YouTube channel monetized. So I'm excited about, I think for me, my personal goal this year is to just become a much better presenter, podcaster, host. We're going to be doing more Game from the Gods live. We actually have one in LA for Grammy Week, Thursday, January 30th. Hopefully we would have now announced it by the time this episode comes out, but that one should be big. We should have a lot of people attending in person for the Game from the Gods in LA. So yeah, I'm excited about the year.
Yeah. Our channel's eligible for monetization now. So you're gonna see our attitudes change. You're gonna see us acting differently. You're gonna see us becoming less approachable now that this money's coming in.
Just because we're just gonna say some crazy shit for clicks. Like as long as we get some clicks popping, the YouTube thumbnails might look a little crazier. We're just gonna try to just sell out. Just so we can get views and clicks and some monetization.
Come on, guys. Y'all know that a lot of people are idiots, so we got to be careful because they're going to think we're being serious right now.
Well, let's start that off then with the top 5 list of things that make men sassy in 2025. Number 1, washing your face. Because as a man, why are you washing your face?
Well, we do have a list today. We're going to start out on a very positive note. Not that Rob Abelo is negative, because I think that the content that he puts out is great, but his list was about the challenges facing the music industry. And it was a long, long list. So we wanted to counter that with why it's a great time to be an independent artist. So we don't have like a top 10 list. We each have our own. We have a long list that we've contributed to. And instead of like agreeing on 10, we're each just going to go round robin and talk about our individual, what we've contributed to the list and what we think is the reasons why now is the best time ever to be a creator. So why don't we start off with Erinn, and then we'll go Payne, and then we'll go me, and we'll do at least 5 rounds of this. Might even be some bonus mentions if we feel like there's other stuff that we didn't mention in our 5 rounds. So what do we got for us? What do you got for us, Erinn? Kick us off.
I would like to preface my sub list or a portion of my list by saying that if you're already a detractor and already somebody who's like, I don't really rock with this, there's too many issues in the industry, I'm with Payne. I'm not necessarily like everything's starting new right now, but also, like you said, Dame, it's like a great time to like refresh and restart because things are naturally turning over in business and in the industry. So like if you're naturally prone to be resistant to this list or resistant to some of the things that we're saying, maybe use this as an opportunity to say, hey, let me give myself 90 days to look at the positives or some of the things that they're doing and try it out. If it doesn't work for you, you can go back to being a detractor. But how about you like rechannel your energy? And so I don't start this like, oh, this is some bullshit. They're just saying that because X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? Like put on a positive face and like some positive ears and let's go from here. So my first thought about the positives in this music industry, what's right with this music industry right now, is the accessibility. You can get to any information you need. You can distribute your music as easily as you want. You can talk to almost any executive, whether it be you go to their bio and there's a place that you can book a consultation, or there's this new website called Intro. Intro, holler at us. We would love for y'all to sponsor our podcast. But Intro, you can talk to Fortune 500 CEOs, fintech startup companies. You can talk to the head of community at Uber. And so they set a price. It's basically like a consultation, open web space, you know, like similar to like masterclass, but they take like titans of their industry and they're like, okay, they have 4 days available this month to talk to you. Here's their rate. You know, some people are $1,000 for 20 minutes. Some people are $200 for 45 minutes. It just depends. And, you know, it may not lead to a relationship, but it could. So it's like, I think the accessibility, just due to the internet age, but also due to the way that information is being consumed right now, it's so easy to access what you need. And to me, that kind of blankets everything. Like I think that because the information is so accessible as well, the cost to trial and error things is so low. Like your barrier of entry is basically nothing. If you have $200 to $1,000, you can set yourself up for success for 30, 60, 90 days. And if you're intentional about that time, 30, 60, 90 days, you could usually at least break even or make that type of money back. Or you could say, hey, I see where this investment went. It was beneficial. I'm going to keep investing. And so I think, yeah, the barrier of entry is super low because everything is super accessible. Tools for growth, you know, like there's so many things I could say, but I think accessibility is the number one reason that there's so many that the music industry is actually in a decent place right now.
So just to give people a heads up, because Erinn, I would say that's like 5 in 1 that she mentioned, because she mentioned distribution, tools for growth. That's like 5 in 1. So some of these might not be mutually exclusive. That because we didn't go over this before we started the podcast. So yeah, some of these might not be mutually exclusive, but ultimately to sum yours up, you're saying accessibility. Because accessibility of like information and then accessibility of like people and then distribution option, to me, that's like a few different things, but we'll sum it up with accessibility for number one for Erinn.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of overlap and crossover. But, and I mentioned this before, but something happened to me recently that really brought this point home. Erinn, you'll appreciate this. Well, I'll tell you off camera more details, and you'll appreciate that. But I think the music business nowadays, at least if you are a serious person, and there are many unserious people out there, but if you're a serious person, the way things work now helps keep people honest, or at very least creates transparency. So this is kind of a two-part. This is going to be my longest segment today. Sorry in advance. But I had an experience recently. And the crazy thing is, this is what I mean. You can look all this stuff up. Technology is like a lie detector test. And it's great for me as a producer, because if I had $1 for every time an artist reached out and offered me a 50-50 split in exchange for producing their songs for free, I'd have enough for one of those nice designer winter jackets, like the Montclair or a Canada Goose. And now it's just
singular jacket.
Well, they're really expensive jackets. They're like $900. So now it's easy to just pull up their numbers and say, okay, you have 10 monthly listeners on Spotify, you have 100 views on YouTube, and if these numbers are consistent across all platforms, I estimate that you're not making any money off of your music, and so your offer is a terrible offer. Or if I look at their monthlies and I'm like, oh, damn, you got 150,000 monthlies. All right, let me look at your most recent songs. Oh, they're all hitting about 200K. Okay, let me calculate that, because I'm going to be making, some money off that. I don't know exactly what. But if I calculate it, I can make a better decision and say, okay, yeah, I'll work with you. I like what you're doing. You're clearly on the rise. You're clearly investing a lot of energy into marketing your music, and it's resonating with people. You got fans. So as a producer, if the music is good and it's clear that you're trying, you're working a plan that is thus far giving results, I'm fine with working with you, for equity, but not even going into the fact that equity is something that by default we all have. You know what I mean? Like, please stop telling producers, hey, I'll give you 50-50 in exchange for, we already have 50-50, until we decide otherwise. Everyone has 50-50. I can't contact an artist and say, hey, give me a free verse, and I promise you'll retain the rights to your verse. You already retain the rights to your verse because it's yours by law. That's how copyright law works. So don't turn that around and be like, hey, if you give me a free beat, I promise you'll retain the rights to your beats. So it's not just a good safeguard for producers. It's good for everyone, because I see producers bullshitting all the time. I see producers claiming they've made these hits and they've been on this album and they've engineered this or they produced this, and you check the credits and their names are nowhere to be found anywhere. I'm not just talking Spotify. I'm talking, an Ace title search. That's something that people don't know about. And I had a producer in the city. I talked to Fatboy, actually. Fatboy, who produced a lot of hit songs, including Wasted for Gucci Mane. That was a song that, for whatever reason, some local guy was claiming he produced. But he ghost produced. But he fucked up by going online saying, yeah, producers on certain projects don't get credited, but they still get their writers and publishers share. I'm like, okay, they do. You're right. Let me look. Because what he was implying was that I'm still getting my cut. He didn't even imply it. He said, I'm still getting my cut because I'm a writer and a publisher on this track.
How does that work? Because I know when producers don't get credit, but they get bought out. I know some deals like that, because like the ghost producing, the ghost writing, but I don't know that they still get the writers and stuff, because they don't want anybody to know that they're connected to that.
Oh, because it's not ghost, especially nowadays. What it is you'll have a producer who signs a bunch of other producers, or you'll just have a main producer that's way bigger than the other producers. That I'm trying to think if that's it. That happened to me, but it was like a really awful situation where the dude just stole everything. It hasn't really happened to me with collabs, but if there's a big time producer, I'm not going to say any names, but a lot of people are doing it. I don't want to make it look like a negative thing. It just is what it is. But if there's a big time producer that starts signing these younger dudes and they're making beats for him, and well, I guess, we see that a lot with, I'm not going to say names because it doesn't matter, because people are going to take it as negative, and I'm not trying to make it out to be negative. But there are producers that are signed, and then the main producer gets the credit. The main producer's tag is in the beat, and no one knows who the other producers are. So either it's not submitted properly to the distributor. So when you look at Spotify, it'll say, like, let's say I signed a bunch of producers. It would say produced by DJ Payne 1. But I'm not actively cutting these other producers out. Whatever our deal is, I'm getting 20% and they're getting the rest. So you'd see their names as co-writers. So yeah, anyone can do an ACE title search. You just go on ASCAP, BMI, whatever, and they have this unified thing called ACE. So search individual names there. This works for everyone. Any songwriter, anybody that writes lyrics, anybody that composes music, their name will be there. So I search that particular title, no co-producer. And then I interview Fat Boy himself. And I'm like, were there any co-producers? He said, no, I made it on the Phantom. I used the MP. So this was like pre-FL session sharing era. And it's just hilarious that people can get caught up in their own lies like that. And so then you see producers selling courses and they say they got hits. It's smart to check.
That's turning negative. It's supposed to be the positive things about the music.
No, it's positive because people are saving their money. Okay, so
transparency for you, Payne,
Yeah.
and obviously Payne's perspective, being a successful producer, is probably going to skew more from a producer standpoint. So
well, and just I'm going to knock out two, because the other transparency tools that don't have to do with data, like streaming credits and ACE title search data, but even Shazam is great. It's great for me as a DJ, because if I'm listening to something and I'm like, I want to know what this song is, but no one knows, I Shazam it. But it also is a safeguard for me. I've talked about this on this podcast before. I've listened to sample packs that were being sold, and I'm like, something's not right. Shazam it. Oh, that's a Michael Jackson sample that they just pitched down. Okay, now I'm saving myself a lot of trouble. Same with rappers. They can avoid a lot of trouble if a producer, some producers do this, they'll say there are no samples in this beat, and there are samples. Shazam doesn't get it perfect. It's just a way to start that conversation. Hey, I noticed this. Okay, well, that was a royalty-free sample. That's why it's coming up as someone else's song. Okay, cool. Then we can talk about that. But it creates better dialogue and peace of mind when you're working with, because there's a lot of uncertainty when you're a recording artist and you're spending your money working with a producer, or when you're a producer and you're buying someone's course. You just want to make sure that it's money well spent. And I think there are just so many resources out there for you to make sure that people are telling the truth. And we haven't even touched on the rest of them. There are so many.
Transparency for Payne. So my first one is going to be just the amount of revenue streams available to artists today. I think if you go back 20 years as an independent artist, you probably have, sales of physical CDs out the trunk. You might be doing some merch, but it was tougher back then. You might be doing some shows, and that's probably where it stops. Right now we have YouTube, we have Patreon, we have groups, we have BeatStars. There are probably tens of different platforms. It might even be more. It might be 100 plus platforms to be able to monetize your content. So I think a lot of independent artists have gotten more creative. Some artists are on Cameo, YouTube, Twitch. There are so many ways to make money as a creator these days, and that's definitely different than any other time in the music industry. So that's going to be my first one, just the number of revenue streams that are available to artists today.
The endless strategies available, which really plays off of yours, Dame, as far as like money making or like marketing or getting yourself out there. There's innumerable ways, whereas it used to just be you have to create a demo tape, get your demo to the right ears, the right ears take that to an A&R. An A&R has to push for you at a record label. The record label has to sign you. Then the record label has to favor you, release a single. The single has to do well and get on the radio and generate money. And then you get to record an album, right? Right now, you could drop an album a week if you wanted to. Or you could drop a 15-second clip. Or you could put out comedy. There's this rapper who blew up on Twitter, I think in 2022, and I just saw a recent tweet from him, and then I went and looked on his TikTok, but he was a rapper and he couldn't figure out how to like market himself, so he started making comedic spoofs about how bad, you know, like the rap music scene was and how like bogus stuff is blowing up. It was like, but it's actually really funny. And what he would do, he'd do a little skit and then he'd rap a whole song about it. And he can really rap. And so those started blowing up. So he's making money and he just started re-triggering his music, like his original music. So I think there are innumerable ways to get attention, to monetize what you're doing, to build traction and get energy behind what you're doing. Even when Dane was talking about so many ways for artists to make money, I think about, I did some strategic partnerships with our distribution company at the time when I was still in management in 2021 and 2022, where our distributor was giving us brand deals to promote their platform. And my artists, I probably got like 6 artists a deal with them. 3 of them I managed and 3 were just in my network. They all ended up making off of the brand deals for 6 months more than they had streamed in the last 2 years collectively. So I just think about that. It's like, if you're not just dead set, and I know Dane and me disagree on this, but if you're not dead set on everything coming directly from your music, if you look at yourself as a creator and as an artist, not just a music artist or a rapper or whatever, there's so many ways to break through the noise and for people not only to see you, but for you to get paid.
What part do I disagree with?
Me saying that you could just treat music as the loss leader.
You can. No, nobody, well, I'm not going to go back to it. You can. It just doesn't have to be. Go, Payne. You're up second. Your second one.
Well, technically, this is my third, but I would say visual assets are the easiest and the cheapest to create. And I'm personally of the school of thought that just creating assets is the best course of action rather than obsessing over quality. Just create the content first and foremost, because even in this era, I'm seeing very simply created, very simply shot videos still perform well if the content is compelling and if it's engaging to people. You know, just short form, especially if it's short form, just camera in your face, no fancy effects. But if you want to get fancier, there are so many ways to do it. I was shocked when Ted was here. Hopefully he doesn't mind me talking about this, but he showed me, it's this free app for iPhone and Android, but especially for the 15 and beyond. And you kind of hack your camera. It's called Blackmagic camera app. You know about that? Okay. It's crazy.
I shoot all my BTS on the Blackmagic. It takes up a ton of storage, but it looks incredible.
Well, there's a way to change those. If you go on YouTube, this is the crazy thing. There are so many people making content around this app that they'll explain how to get the video files high quality and still, lower if you change the settings. But you can color grade in real time. So you just open it and you're automatically in cinematic mode. All the color grading already done. Or you can film raw log data and then import it into your video workstation, and your iPhone or your Android phone didn't mess with those settings. They didn't use their default color settings and light settings and all that. You can really treat it like damn near a Blackmagic camera. Obviously, a Blackmagic camera is way crazier, but when you look at the footage created by this app, man, it looks like someone with a really good mirrorless or a DSLR and who knows color grading. So it's amazing what you can do there. And then Canva and other platforms for other sort of visual media. It used to be you had to learn Photoshop and you had to learn what did it used to be that everyone was editing video on? Final Cut. You had to learn
Final
all
Cut
that.
Pro. Yeah.
Yeah, not anymore. Your phone, CapCut, all these free apps, and they're free. You use Canva free. You can use CapCut free. You can use Blackmagic free.
Yeah, so I think that's a great one. A lot of times I talk to artists and the ones that are frustrated with content making. You know, I think it's more so that they don't know what to post. Like I think if they started getting some positive feedback from what they're posting, like they would enjoy it more. But they don't really know what to post. Right? They're not taking the time to really understand kind of the story that they're trying to share and the pillars that they're trying to cover with their content. So they wake up every day struggling and they're frustrated, like, damn, I got to post today, as opposed to like having a good understanding of the message and the story that you're trying to tell, and you can plan it out. And I think those artists are even more excited to create and to share. So it makes it much less stressful. But there's a lot of ways to make great content, like Payne said.
Can I just make a note to that, Dane?
Yeah.
New year, don't just be posting your song, please. Like, and don't just be posting random shit. Like, create a story. And I'm not saying just make up a whole whatever, but you should be building a world and inviting people into your world. Like, there's so many easy, like Payne said, things on YouTube, wherever, about visual storytelling, creative direction. Like, I'm gonna be honest, even the like I'm standing there rapping to my phone is gonna die out if it doesn't have a deeper sense of connection that it's leading people down to. It's always gonna be cool if it looks good, but I'm telling y'all, like, tell a story. And if you don't know what story you're telling, and I'm not talking about tell the story in the song. Who are you as a creator? What is the bigger purpose? What's the community that you're trying to attract? What's the connection that you feel to the world and that the world should feel to you? And then what is the world that you're building? If you don't understand that, like, you need to go like, I don't give a fuck about this picture of you posing and your music is playing behind it. I get it. Get your shots up because that's what they used to tell you. But right now, especially with the algorithm de-emphasizing quantity, it's really about the quality of what you're building and not just the visual quality, the quality of the story that you're telling so that your audience is engaged. Right now, the Instagram algorithm is transitioning to what it's hearing. So that's why hashtags aren't working anymore. So if you say, hey, this is about the creator economy versus doing hashtag creators, saying creator economy is going to get it more. So if you're telling a story about your village, your people, your tribe, your community, the misfits, the outcast, or the cool kids, whatever it is, you need to be figuring out how you're telling that story visually, yes, but literally verbally.
All right, so it's my second turn. I'm going to just go with the fact that you have a global reach. You know, you can reach people on the other side of the globe just as quick as you can reach somebody next door. And I see a lot of artists at Too Lost, actually. They might be born in the States, but their family is from somewhere else. And they've been able to kind of tap back into their culture and build a pretty large following elsewhere. Right? For so long, we've been told that you have to build out locally. Even some idiots will tell you that now. You got to win your city over. No, you don't have to win your city over. You know, if I think everybody would love local support. You want to be kind of the hometown hero, but sometimes they catch on late and sometimes they never catch on, and that's okay. But we have the ability now to build a business with customers or fans from around the globe. And I think that that's amazing. So tap in. I think even Russ, the first time Russ had like a big show, I want to say it was in like Belgium or something like that. It wasn't in the States. Like the first time he had some like his own show with like over 1,000 people there, or like 500 to 1,000 people. It was somewhere in Europe. It definitely wasn't in the States.
Yeah, he did that show, and then he came back to play my festival, but only sound checked. And I've told that story before. But like, it was in Atlanta, and because he was on the north side, so like he had done some stuff. But even my show in Atlanta, we sold out at like 140 tickets at Vinyl Center Stage, and he was one of the co-headliners. But he wasn't even the biggest ticket seller. Like we was out selling physical tickets. So yeah, like it was maybe, I think 2 or 3 weeks after he had done that show, he had came back. So yeah, like I agree. Like I don't think you have to be your hometown hero, but I do think you have to pick somewhere where you're focused, or figuring out where people are focused on you.
Oh yeah, and also don't get discouraged, because I think it's incredibly discouraging. I think it's a really toxic mindset to have, that you're trying to take over your locale. Because what happens a lot of times is you'll take over your locale, which means you'll play a couple successful shows, and then you're like, okay, cool, king of my city, I'm done. And it's like, no, expand. So
I don't want to oversaturate the market.
Right. Or like, I accomplished everything I needed to. I'm the king now. And then, I've seen that too. It's just funny. But all the artists not all, but the majority of the artists I work with from here, yeah, they do well here. Like when Ted and I did those couple shows out here, yeah, there were hundreds of people, but then he goes to Canada and it's 1,000. I'm like, how the hell did that happen? And it was even to the point where, like, remember Macklemore before Thrift Shop? Maybe you don't. I do. My friends opened up for him at like 100 cap venue. A year later, the kind of the most viral rap song before Old Town Road, probably. Go figure. But that's one day you're playing 100 cap venues. Even when Soul and I perform, some European shows aren't great, some American shows aren't great, but on average, the European shows are probably 2 to 3 times better attended. It's just how it is.
Or it's like if you're an Atlanta rapper, or like in the Southeast, and you get to like the Northwest. I've seen that happen so many times, where you're in like Tacoma, Washington, and it's like not at all like Atlanta. I think about even like Pierre Bourne. Pierre used to DM me nonstop, like, yo, put me on one of your shows. Yo, put me on one of your shows. And like, again, it'd be like 30, 40 people. He'd be begging for that. Like, no disrespect to Pierre Bourne. Shout out to him. I think he's dope. But it was like,
no, that's how it is. That's a journey.
They do this again. So I put him on a show. I put him on a couple shows, but I think like the third show I put him on, it was right after Magnolia blew up, Playboy Cardi. And then I didn't hear from him. He didn't pull up to his own. He wasn't the only rapper. I never just hang my hat on one rapper. I've never done that. He didn't pull up to the show, but then I see him. He's like opening up, not even for Cardi. I can't remember, somewhere. And they were like, I don't know. I think he did like South Dakota and then like San Diego. And it was literally like he was playing, not an arena, but like a amphitheater. And I was like, yo, like this kid couldn't get 40, 50 people, but it's like, it could be overnight that you suddenly, like you said, and not that we're selling pipe dreams, but it's like, depending on the way that you're cultivating your internal audience, it doesn't have to be local. I mean, I feel like I really hit a lot of these in some. One of my biggest ones is how cheap lawyers are right now. Like, this is revolutionary, y'all. Like, when I started, and all of these things I'm saying, all my list is personal. It's like, this is what I had to fight through when I first got here. Here's how easy it is now. But I think about lawyers. A lot of them are way more willing to talk to artists. It's way easier to find a lawyer on socials, DM them, or send them an email. Well, don't DM them. Send them an email from their bio. Hey, I'm looking for some advice. I may have a record deal that I'm signing. I'm trying to do this, this, and this. Like, what is your either consulting rate, or can I pay you to review a contract and not just retain you? I think because the indies are expanding so rapidly and have been for the last decade and a half, lawyers have realized that they can't just take on clients that are on retainers for 3, 6, 9 months to a year. So they're like, okay, okay, cool. Like, I'll make it easy for you. So I think that if you're struggling, if you need help, one, I feel like it's easy to read contracts now because there's so many tools available, especially with AI. But two, there's so much information available, not just on YouTube, but like information to reach out to the proper lawyers, the proper people to, have somebody help represent you. You can have somebody fix your contract and send a scary letter for like less than $500 if you need to, versus like when I first started, my lawyer, we had to sign a minimum of a 3-month retainer at $1,500 a month. And he gave us even a discount on that. But we were like scraping together pennies just to get our lawyer on retainer when we were looking at some stuff that we needed to negotiate it.
Yo, I don't know if lawyers want to hear that it's so cheap to get a lawyer now, but that is definitely.
I'm saying just to start out, it's really a lot of them. I mean, even Ryan is like, it's not as hard to retain. It's not as hard to get me as possible. I'm not saying cheap to keep them, but it's not that hard either, because once you're making money, 5% isn't that bad if you making money. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, you can definitely get to lawyers a lot easier now. Ryan is super accessible. I've actually started working with Ryan outside of the stuff that we do online. He's helping me with some contracts for Big Ja. So, definitely it's, I would agree with you for sure. All right, Payne, what you got? Number 3.
On-demand printing, and not just for merch, for actual physical media. It used to be so intimidating, the prospect of getting merchandise. I remember when we would drop an album, whatever groups I was in, it was like, damn, we got to scrape together thousands of dollars to get these CDs, even more for vinyl, even more for shirts, because they always had minimum amounts, right? They just had to. It wouldn't make sense to make one shirt. You'd be paying $100 for one shirt, but you pay $300 and you get 20 shirts, so you're going to get that, or maybe those numbers are off. But either way, we had to get a lot of money up front to invest in that merch, and you knew it was necessary, because if you're playing shows, even if it's a slow night, those sales can save you, because 2 or 3 fans could spend $50 to $100 each, and there was no on demand for T-shirts, no on hoodies, no on demand. But vinyl, never. And now there's on-demand vinyl printing, and they will ship everything to the customers for you. So all the shipping logistics, you don't even have to deal with anymore. That's amazing to me, because within the last 10 years, I've had to deal with this, because me and Sol always drop vinyl, and it's such a hassle. It's such a logistical, because he figured it out, because he was running Anacon for so long. He figured out all the DIY shipping and all that. And so he's doing that, or the label's doing that. Nowadays, and I'm not going to say names because they're not sponsoring the podcast, but they should be. But there are a lot of companies out there that will print on-demand vinyl. Obviously, you're going to make more money if you're buying it all up front. But if you don't have that option, or you just want to test things out, this is a great way to do it. Will my vinyl sell? Okay, let's do a quick 1 month initial on-demand shipping run for these vinyl. Oh wow, I sold out. Cool, I'm going to take that money and buy it up front, so now my profit margin is higher.
Yeah, the fact that you can sell merch and vinyl and things like that with pretty much no money up front is crazy to people that are looking at the industry from 10, 15 years ago.
It's nuts.
Because it would cost a lot of money to, and then you're kind of guessing, like Payne said, like, how much should I keep in inventory? So you're trying to manage your inventory costs.
Sizes, ugh.
Yep.
Boy, sizes. Or if you're going on tour and you have all this overhead, so then it's like, just for you to be able to get, because they'll do like a net 30, but you got to pay like a third up front, but you got to order like a minimum of 1,000. So you're trying to decide, should I just order 200 shirts for the first leg of tour so that I don't have to put in this 1,000 order, But if I put in 1,000 order, I'm spending the same as the two. It's just in the math. And then it's just like, where are we spending? Yeah, it's just, folks don't understand. That's a big thing. And then paying even the printing on demand, like getting signs printed. Like sometimes with Brandon and I, like last minute, we'll be like, oh, we need more signage for an event. You can get stuff printed like within 24 or 48 hours. That never, you used to have to put it in order damn near a month in advance. And then a week later, they would send you back they'd be like, does this look good? And it'd be the low res vectored image. And you'd be like, I think so. And then they'd be like, okay, you can pick this up in 16 days. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? Now I can order it tonight and they can have it overnighted to me in a whole nother city. So printing in general has just been revolutionized.
So for my third one, I'm going to go with what gets a lot of flack these days, and I'm going to go with streaming, the positive sides of streaming. Of course, I think we all want artists to get paid more via streaming, but what streaming has done has given artists that have figured it out and have some traction the closest thing to a paycheck, a consistent paycheck that they've ever seen, right? Where you have fairly predictable cash flow. It has attracted finance companies to get into the game, and it has given offers to artists that do have predictable cash flow an alternative financing method. Here at Two Loss, we do direct deals with artists all of the time that have healthy, consistent revenue stream, and we're able to advance them money up front because they run their algorithms and they can kind of predict how, based off your prior 6 months earnings, like they can predict out like how that's going to perform, and we're willing to give you money up front, in exchange for those royalties. So I think that has allowed artists to invest in their career in a way that they've never been able to do before. And it's been giving them insight into, what they will be making. And it's something that a lot of artists that I know kind of depend on that streaming royalty check. And it's fairly consistent from month to month if you're putting out music. So that is the positive side of streaming. I still want artists to get paid more per stream. Hopefully, that gets sorted out in the coming years, but there is a very positive side to streaming. And in addition to that, gets connected to the global reach. There's a lot of exposure that's given to artists via Spotify, via Apple Music, via the algorithms. People are learning about new artists every single day because of streaming and because of the playlists and Spotify radio and things like that. So there is a very positive side to streaming, no matter how evil you think they are. So streaming.
Well, especially on the heels of our conversation about the blog era, where we were releasing so much music then and there was no monetization. Millions of plays and downloads, and we would make nothing. And the platforms were making money. And that was just how it is. And we never thought about that as problematic until streaming came along. And then we saw how problematic streaming was, and we're like, fuck streaming. But the system at least now we can monetize some of it. I just wonder how that would have worked if back then, that Piff or Hot New Hip Hop or whatever had some kind of monetization program.
They were making a shitload of money, not as much as Daniel Ek, but Daniel Ek receives a lot of criticism because when he cashes out, it's a public company. So when he cashes out his stock or his salary, it's advertised. So people are like, oh, he's a billionaire and all these artists are struggling. You may have some validity to that conversation. However, these other platforms were making a shitload of money and weren't paying artists and producers a dime. And nobody said anything because they felt like these platforms were part of the culture, but they weren't giving back to shit. They weren't giving back to nobody. They were fattening their pockets. That's all it was. So
you get once a year a South by Southwest showcase, you know what I'm saying? And then occasionally they would feature somebody. But yeah, I think they were looking at their value though as a promotional platform. So it's like, especially if you were uploading for free and you got a hit and something kind of went viral. So to me, it's not all negative, because I do see the value that they played. It's like, they're like, hey, we're basically a free promotional tool. Because, it wasn't at first where they would charge people to upload. That started coming because they started seeing people taking off, and they're like, okay, well, if you want priority upload, it's this much. If you want that. But DatPiff, all those were free basically to upload. So they're like, well, we're aggregating the audience, so we're going to get paid, versus you paying for the newspaper or, features from a publicist. So again, I still see it from the industry side, where it's not like they were just abusing everybody. I do agree they were making a ton of money and not redistributing it, but they were also providing a platform with an audience that you wouldn't have had you not gone to their platform.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. You could reach out to them. Like, I could reach out to Mecca, and I could reach out to, well, I'm not going to list all the names, but you can't do that with Spotify. But that the difference is there's more human curation there. I mean, with Spotify, there's human curation, but it feels more like the majors.
I mean, I could reach out. I'm not going to name any names, but once you get to a certain place in the industry, you can reach out to the people who run editorial. Do you know what I'm saying?
You can reach out, but it's just...
I could essentially say the same thing, but they're bigger. Like, they have a much bigger audience. So are you saying that would hold weight for Spotify? Or Spotify was like, hey,
No, I'm saying the same like you, where it's like, I do see that there's a disparity in the dispensation of the money, right? Like, the trickle down effect is really, it's exactly that. It's fucking trickling. But I'm saying, like, we're saying that DatPiff and Spotify are similar, and I'm agreeing, but I'm also saying that, like, we can't, as the people, always be like, man, I'm bringing you the music, you're not giving me shit, because then it sounds like artists to managers. It's like, yeah, but we built the technology, we built the platform, and we've aggregated a massive audience base to one locale. So now you're coming and you're placing your product here, and it's allowing you to have more eyes and more revenue. So that's all I'm saying about DatPiff. It's like, I don't want to overly romanticize it, but I also don't want to make them out to be the villains. Like, yeah, they were making a ton of money and they weren't trickling it down. It's like, yeah, but they were giving you a platform to be seen on.
But I'm not even mad at that era. I just think it's funny at how people criticize Spotify, but didn't say shit about that era of music.
Because people weren't even aware of, like, they weren't thinking like that. There's a lot more, again, transparency in the industry now. You weren't aware that DatPiff is like drug dealer money for real.
But during that phase of the music industry is when the music industry was kind of at its lowest from a market size standpoint, right? I think it was like 8 billion a year, something around 8 billion a year, versus now I think we're creeping back up towards 20 billion. But that was the lowest market size. That blog era was the lowest market size for recorded music. Probably, I can't say in the history of music because of inflation or whatever, but if you accounted for inflation, probably was the lowest ever. All right, that's round 3. Let's get to round 4, Erinn. What you got for us?
Communication tools. They're like, again, accessibility, but for me, it's twofold. One, for managing a team or connecting with your team, it used to be that it was really difficult to manage an artist or work with a company or work with a team if you weren't in the same city. Even with cell phones, it just is super difficult. But having things like Asana, Zoom, Teams, whatever, to be able, one, to communicate virtually, like to see each other, but then 2, to have everybody on the same task. Google Docs, like the whole Google suite has revolutionized my life. And just even that, it's like I came up when there was Google, and then we had like Word documents, and then we were emailing each other Word documents. But as an artist manager, that shit didn't work. They didn't even open the email. But now it's like I can see who's accessed the document, who's edited, who's updated it. It doesn't even have to be anything super fancy. There's a lot of fancy productivity suites, but just at its basic level, using the Google suite is super helpful. But also the second part of that, communication wise, there are a lot of music execs or like thought leaders, different people who would not give you their phone number, and also probably wouldn't give you their email because they're like, I have work to do. I can't just muddle up my email. But now it's like you can go to their scheduling app, you can go on their Calendly and book some time, even if it's free, and then they'll get on Zoom with you. So not only are you getting to see and convene with these people, they also get the separation and the ability to say, like, I need some privacy. Like, you don't have full access to me, but you can still get time on my calendar and we can convene. So like my access to people has astronomically gone up just because of tools like Zoom and Calendly. And same for me, I'm way more open to connecting to people because I know they don't have my email or my phone number. So it's not going to waste my time, but we can connect for 45 minutes. I get a little bread, you get some insight, and then we're out of the way, you know?
Love that one. I said I made a post last week that 2025 for me is the year of collaboration. With the amount of stuff that we're trying to get done, we have to tap in with more folks. And these tools allow us to do this and stay on the same page and make sure we're pushing the ball forward. So love that one. Payne, round 4, what you got for us?
To complement what Erinn just said, I would say access to professionals in general, and not just in the sense of communicating with them, but watching what they're doing, because they're posting a lot of social proof. And from that, you can reverse engineer a lot of strategy. And I think that's something that a lot of people, unfortunately, don't understand. When producers are contacting me and saying, how do I build my brand? Or rappers are like, well, what do I do? I have no idea what to do. It's like, you have access to everybody's branding in a way that we never did before, because it's all social media. It's all using the same tools that you have access to. So what are they doing? Reverse engineer it. It's right there in front of you.
Nice. I think for me, number 4, I think it's kind of been mentioned in a few of ours earlier, but just going to call it out specifically, is just the amount of educational resources that you have today. Like, I started the Music Entrepreneur Club, out of the ashes of Funk Volume. So that's 2016, 2017. And at the time, I really didn't feel like there were that many platforms that offered like genuine, real advice. And I think that it has increased tenfold, hundredfold. Now with that becomes a lot of people that don't know what they're fucking talking about. So I understand the flip side and the struggle of like, but once you do identify the people that have valuable experience and have something to share that you can add to what you're doing or contribute to what you're doing, like you can lock in with some very well-respected, well-experienced folks. And that just shit. When I started Funk Volume, the only cat that I reached out, that's why me and Propaganda, he might have been on the MEC before. Anyway, Propaganda is a cat that one of my frat brothers introduced me to, because I didn't know anything about the music industry in 2008. And that's the only person that I can turn to for some type of advice. And he's become a real cool friend of mine in the industry. But there definitely wasn't no MEC back then. And even when Funk Volume crashed and burned, I didn't feel like there were that many resources that you can turn to. But now there are quite a few folks you can turn into the Digilog. There's a lot of organizations that have great newsletters that drop every day. So the ASCAP Daily Brief, Digilog has an email that they send out.
Ari Herstead.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of folks now. So there's no reason, at this point, if education, it's a choice to not be educated essentially about the music industry. So I think just the amount of educational resources today is my number 4. So, all right, let's last round here, Erinn. What you got for number 5?
I think it's echoing similar sentiments, but the lowest, like the excessive ease of access to like other tools for growth. So like running ads or hiring an influencer or whatever, free trials to everything. So a free Canva trial, a free CapCut trial. There's so many tools and things to help you grow. You could just find them anywhere. You could just type into ChatGPT, what's a marketing campaign for me? And then boom, it could run you down. And now everybody wants the simple answer and then somebody to do it for you. No, you're going to have to adapt it and mend it. But I think, yeah, there's so many tools available, whereas we were trying to build everything from scratch ourselves and think through it. But now it's like you can just find a full suite of program, even like 24/7 artists. You can get into their funnel and it's like day by day, it gives you stuff to do. It's so many tools.
Shout out to 24/7 artists. Payne, what's your number 5?
Technically I already had one, but what I would say is, I'm going to say something positive about algorithms, which is weird. The cool thing about the social media algorithms, depending on the platform, is that they can kind of lead you towards a community. So you're going to start seeing, depending on how actively you use social media, you're going to start seeing the same people posting the same stuff. And I am especially on Instagram, the producer algorithm. So there are a lot of producers that I didn't even know existed that are making amazing music that I'm getting suggestions to follow. And so I follow them and then I reach out and next thing you know, we're collaborating. They're in other countries, they're in other regions, but they're hardworking, talented people that are, either on right now or on the verge. And it's just such a great tool for community.
So a little positive side of algorithms these days. For my last one, I'm going to go with, I don't think that music is like a very forward-thinking industry. However, it attracts a lot of technology companies that are trying to build new tools to make things easier, to make things more transparent. Now, again, some of these companies don't know what the hell they're doing, and they need to hire people like Erinn to actually be successful. But the fact that we continue to advance and push things forward in all different aspects of the music industry, distribution here at Two Loss, we're always trying to advance and add features. We should have advanced splits happening soon because, of course, a lot of distributors have added the capability to split payments, but our splits going forward are going to be able to recoup balances. You're going to be able to do a lot more things with the splitting of payments rather than just split the payments. So we're always adding new features, new tools. We'll have a white label distribution option that's going to be introduced soon. So there's a lot of things that are being happening on the Two Loss platform. And then just distribution in general, like just to be able to get your music out so quickly these days is dope. So the technology that's being applied to the music industry continues to push it forward. So I would encourage you to stay on top of what's happening. A lot of these newsletters that we just talked about will feature some of the companies that are doing interesting things. I love Symphony. I love what Symphony's doing with marketing and helping people run ads. But Symphony's bigger than that. They're building ultimately like a customer relationship management tool, and all of the data will get housed, and the AI will run and give suggestions based off the data that you have. So you can get a lot smarter around what you're doing because there's a lot of companies, a lot of smarter people getting into the music industry to try to figure out and build tools to help you guys build businesses. So for my last one, I would just say just the technology that's being applied. And to be honest with you, like our list is a lot longer. Like we could keep going for rounds and rounds and rounds. That's ultimately why I wanted to do this, because I think a lot of times we just harp too much on the negative, and because it's easy to do, because the negative plays on people's existing frustration, right? There's a lot of artists. I think there's I think the number was like 11 million on Spotify or something. Like somebody just told me there's like 11 million artists on Spotify. And granted, I would say 95% of those people aren't taking their career seriously. So you're not really competing with 11 million. But 11 million is a lot, and a lot of people are frustrated and mad. So it's easy to like put out a negative list and get it supported because people are already in a frustrated place. But hopefully some of the things that we've talked about today, give you a little bit of encouragement, a little insight. Maybe there were some things in here that we talked about that you want to follow up on or start doing. So, but yeah. Any final thoughts from you guys?
If you had a goal or have a resolution for 2025, try to just change your perspective a bit. If you're already frustrated, well, hey, being frustrated and being negative didn't work up to this point. So what do you have to lose to try seeing things from a different perspective? It's not going to be easy. It's going to take months to cultivate that new perspective because you're essentially changing your thoughts and your brain waves and building new pathways in your brain. So I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not downplaying it. But what else? What do you have to lose by being more positive? You're going to be less stressed out, even if the end result is the same. Who cares, right? It's not being negative and being so frustrated that you don't even try is not working.
Get good, go be great. Happy New Year.
There it is. All right, Payne, you want to wrap us up? We can get up out of here?
Absolutely. Yeah. And part of that is if you have music sitting around your hard drive that isn't reaching people, that you aren't monetizing, what's the point of that? The systems are there. It's helpful to learn them. And so to do so for absolutely free, go to www.twolost.com, sign up, use the code MEC. You will get 3 free months of free unlimited music distribution. Learn the systems, figure out the pre-sales, figure out all that stuff, and get that music up there. Schedule it, work on your rollouts, work on your content strategy. At very least, this distributor part isn't going to cost you anything. So twolost.com, code MEC. We appreciate all of you for not only watching us, but supporting us in other ways, subscribing to the new channel, using the 2Lost code, uploading your music, and happy 2025.